The polished hallways of Heartfelt Financial shone softly under gentle lights as morning meetings kicked off across the 40-story building. The executive levels buzzed quietly with the smooth efficiency of a thriving investment company, where massive financial choices were handled with the same ease as grabbing a coffee. Sarah Bennett rushed down the corridor toward the administrative section, her blonde hair tied neatly in a bun under her blue uniform. At 31, Sarah had been a custodial supervisor at Heartfelt Financial for 18 months, a role that gave her steady pay and health coverage for herself and her 5-year-old daughter, Emma. Today, though, Sarah faced a tough spot. Emma's daycare had called that morning, saying the little girl had a fever and needed to be picked up right away. With no family nearby and no other childcare options, Sarah decided to bring Emma to work, hoping to keep her daughter cozy in her office while juggling her supervisory tasks. Emma walked alongside her mom through the stylish hallway, holding her favorite stuffed sheep and wearing a grey sweater over her red knitted scarf. Despite feeling unwell, the little girl's blonde curls framed a face still curious about the world, though her usual spark was dulled by sickness. "Mama, this place looks so grand," Emma whispered, her voice raspy from her cold. "Is it really okay for me to be here?" Sarah gently squeezed her daughter's hand. Just for today, sweetie. You can rest in my office while I finish work, and then we'll head home to make some soup." What Sarah didn't realize was that this morning was the first day for Heartfelt Financial's new CEO, James Mitchell, who had taken charge of the company just 2 weeks earlier. Today, he was making his first tour of all departments to meet staff and learn how the business ran from the ground up. At 36, James had built his career believing that great leadership meant knowing every part of a company. He made it a point to learn the names and jobs of everyone, from the mailroom to the top offices, understanding that a company's real strength came from the hard work of all its people, not just the leaders. As James walked through the administrative area with his assistant, he spotted a small figure in a red scarf, sitting in what looked like a supply room. His business mind instantly wondered why a child was in the building. Instead of asking his assistant, he chose to check it out himself. James approached the office, where Emma sat quietly coloring in a book, while Sarah arranged cleaning schedules at her desk. The little girl looked up when she noticed someone at the door, and her face lit up with a bright smile of recognition. "Daddy!" Emma cried out happily, dropping her crayon and running toward James with the pure excitement only young kids have. James froze, his thoughts racing to make sense of what just happened. The little girl had wrapped her arms around his legs, looking up at him with pure joy, clearly thinking she knew him. Sarah turned from her desk, her face red with embarrassment and worry. "Emma, no! I'm so sorry, sir. She's not feeling well, and sometimes kids get confused when they have a fever." But as Sarah looked closer at the man her daughter hugged, her own world seemed to tilt. The face was familiar, though she hadn't seen it in over 6 years. James looked down at the little girl, then at Sarah with growing shock and recognition. Sarah Bennett, is that you?" Emma, still holding on to James's legs, looked up with confusion. "Daddy, why do you look surprised? Mama said you had to go away for work, but I knew you'd come back." Sarah's eyes welled up as the impossible moment unfolded. "James, I can explain." "Emma, sweetie, come to Mama." But James was still grappling with what Emma had called him and what it might mean about their past. "Sarah, how old is Emma?" he asked softly, his voice mixed with shock and a hint of hope. "She's 5, Sarah answered, her voice barely above a whisper. "She'll be 6 in March." James quickly calculated in his head, recalling the brief time he and Sarah dated during his last year of graduate school before he moved to New York for a job. The timing matched Emma's age perfectly, and looking at the little girl's features, he saw similarities he'd first thought were just chance. "Sarah, why didn't you tell me?" James asked, his voice thick with emotion as he knelt to Emma's level. Emma, sensing the serious tone of the grown-up talk, looked between her mom and the man she called Daddy with growing uncertainty. "Mama, is this really my daddy? The one you said might come back someday?" Sarah struggled to find words that worked for both her daughter and the man who was now her boss, and possibly Emma's father. "Emma, this is James. We knew each other before you were born. And yes, sweetie, he might be your daddy, but we need to talk about some adult things first." James stood slowly, his mind spinning from the revelation. "Sarah, I had no idea. When I left for New York, I tried calling you several times, but your number was disconnected. I thought you didn't want to keep in touch." Sarah's voice trembled as she explained. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you left. I tried reaching you through your graduate program, but they said you'd moved and left no contact details. I didn't have the money to hire investigators or follow up further." James felt a heavy wave of regret, realizing how different their lives might have been if they'd communicated better 6 years ago. Emma, who had been listening closely with the intense focus kids bring to talks about their lives, spoke up. "So you're my daddy, but you didn't know about me?" she asked James directly, with the kind of honest curiosity that adults often find both refreshing and tough. James looked into Emma's eyes, seeing Sarah's smarts mixed with features he now recognized as his own. "Emma, it seems I'm your daddy, and I'm so sorry I didn't know about you until now. If I had, I would have been here with you and your mama from the start." Emma thought about this with the seriousness sick kids often bring to big moments. "Mama said you had important work far away, and that's why you couldn't be with us. But now you're here, so can you stay?" James looked at Sarah, realizing she'd crafted an explanation for his absence that kept Emma's self-worth intact while holding on to hope for his return. "Emma, I work here now, so I live in Chicago again. Now that I know about you, I really want to be part of your life. If that's okay with you and your mama." Sarah felt overwhelmed by the sudden turn of events, but seeing the hope in her daughter's eyes, she knew this unexpected reunion, however complex, might be the answer to prayers she'd nearly given up on. "James," Sarah said softly, "we should probably talk privately about how to handle this. Emma needs rest, and we have a lot of practical things to discuss." James nodded, his business training helping him stay focused despite the emotional storm. "Sarah, first, don't worry about bringing Emma to work today. Family emergencies happen, and any good employer should get that. Second, I think we should arrange DNA testing to confirm what we both think is true, not because I doubt it, but because Emma deserves official proof of her parentage." He paused, glancing at Emma, who was back at her coloring book but clearly listening. "Most importantly, I want to make sure we do this in a way that's best for Emma. She's been without a father for 5 years, and I don't want to disrupt her life more than needed. But I also want to start building a bond with her right away." Emma looked up from her coloring. "Daddy James, will you stay until Mama's work is done? I don't feel good, and it'd be nice to have both my parents here." James felt his heart break and mend at the same time, hearing himself called Daddy James by this incredible little girl who seemed to handle the situation with more grace than either adult. "Of course, Emma, I'll stay with you and Mama, and we'll make sure you feel better soon." As the day went on, James cancelled his remaining meetings and spent the afternoon in Sarah's office, getting to know his daughter while talking over the details of blending their lives. Emma napped on a small couch, occasionally waking to find both her parents nearby, which gave her a comfort she'd never known before. By evening, James had arranged for a pediatric doctor to visit and check on Emma's illness, and he'd started the process of legally recognizing his paternity. More importantly, he began the careful work of building trust with both Sarah and Emma, understanding that becoming a family would take patience, commitment, and putting their needs above his own convenience. The struggling single mother who brought her sick daughter to work had unknowingly brought together a family separated by miscommunication and circumstances. And the new CEO, who had planned to spend his first day learning about company operations, had instead found the most important role of his life, being a father to an extraordinary little girl who had been waiting for him to come home. Thank you for listening to this story about unexpected family reunions and fresh starts. If this tale warmed your heart and reminded you that life's biggest moments often come when we least expect them, Please like this video, share it with someone who values the strength of family ties, and subscribe for more stories celebrating the beautiful complexity of human connections. We'd love to hear in the comments about times when unexpected meetings led to life-changing moments, or when misunderstandings were finally cleared up, bringing families closer. Remember, sometimes the most important moments on our schedule are the ones that happen by chance, and the greatest discoveries find us when we're just trying to do our best in tough situations.